Okay, great. Please, probably start all over again. You don't want to miss that wonderful part.
Okay. His Excellency, the Ambassador of Nigeria to Turkey, other dignitaries present, the executive members of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the National Youth President of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, the executive of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, Europe chapter, and the entire member of the Youth Council of Nigeria, Europe chapter, I warmly welcome you all, and especially our dignitaries, to this important discussion. This occasion is important for a number of reasons. First, it is the first time that the European Youth Council is organizing a discussion of this nature. While the National Youth Council of Nigeria is not new, its European branch is just developing. In this course of its development, it is striving to bring the youth together, harmonize their agenda, and support their quest for the attainment of a Nigeria of our dreams. We are doing this to advance such a purpose. Secondly, this discussion provides a valuable platform for the youth of Nigeria in Europe to engage with interesting topics that concern their well-being and contribute to national conversations. We are all aware that the young people in general are bursting with ideas, energies, and ability to make things happen. They are never briefing of creative ideas. Furthermore, the youth constitute a significant proportion of the country population, as reported by the Vanguard of October 7th, 2022. Nigeria has more than 150 million youth out of a population stands of 217 million people. The youth in Nigeria account for about 70% of these 217 million people. This is quite significant and need adequate representation. While some of these young Nigerians have found their way to Europe and other parts of the world for a greener pasture in what we now call the Japa syndrome, I am certain that they never lost connection to their roots. Many of them remain connected through news platforms, social media, family ties, investment, and remittance, etc., to their Nigerian roots. In fact, it can be safely argued that some Nigerians in Europe follow development in Nigeria than some Nigerians at home. This shows that the Nigerian youth in diaspora remain involved in the events and happenings in Nigeria and willing to be a part of things. Through a platform such as this, the youth can gain a voice and contribute their quota to national discourse and development. Thirdly, this discussion will provide us with an opportunity to discern issues and rub minds on issues that concern both the youth and our nation. Nigeria and present ideas that can emulate our paths, while it is starting to be obvious when we say that our dear country is bedeviled with a number of challenges. It is not accurate to state that the challenges transcend our collective understanding. The truth is that every country, including the ones we all currently live in face a measure of its own challenges. What makes the difference between this country and Nigeria is how they deal with their challenges. Of the view that if we get our act together as a nation, we can overcome these challenges within the shortest time possible. And I believe that the youth, especially those in diaspora, have an important part to play in dealing with this problem. This is why this discussion is all the more important. Through a discussion such as this, we can arrive at workable conclusions and recommendations that can support our leaders' desire for national growth and development. My hope is that leaders and their representatives will draw lessons from this discussion. This discussion comprises different topic areas will be led by 4 seasoned personalities. I thank the speakers for accepting our invitation to speak at this historic event. I especially thank the ambassador for honoring us with his presence and also agreeing to speak. I hope that the idea from this discussion will find a place in national conversations. Please permit me to conclude by congratulating the Honorable Minister for Youth Affairs, Honorable Dr. Jimabia Abreodun, and Mr. Ayodele Olawande on the occasion of their appointments. I am confident that you will deliver on this assignment assigned to you and do your very best to carry the youth of the country, including those of us in diaspora. Along in your affair, I wish you and your team successful tenure. I thank you all for listening and have a fruitful deliberation. When you build the youth, you build the nation. God bless National Youth Council of Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. I remain Collins Idahosa, Governor, National Youth Council of Nigeria, Europe chapter.
That was so massive. Please drop on the chats reaction. Well, how you feel about that? Just use the reaction box on the chats to. If you feel he has not done well, say it there with your reaction. But if you feel, as I'm impressed, just drop it there, please. Let us show him some love. That's also massive. He spoke to exactly what's been our pain. And I believe that this is the turning point. This is the time for, I was discussing with him this morning that with the youth coming together this time, we are not going to be like the Israelites that will use 40 years to, this is the time. We are not going to use 40 years anymore in the wilderness. We are getting to our destination this time. And nobody's going to delay us. Thank you for that wonderful speech. So now, in his speech, he said something about the national youth. Of course, I'm a person of word, so I note most of the things he said, the major points. So one of the things is he talked about the national youth, the one in Nigeria, and also he addressed the executive here. That means there are people who are the engine room, who are the grease and the engine oil that is making this platform, this council to tick. So we want to call them one by one to introduce themselves. Of course, we've already known the governor, and my wonderful ambassador is looking at me as well, and the Honorable John himself. Please introduce yourself. And if you are also an executive, just drop the name. I know some, but please just drop a name on the chat so we can call you to introduce yourself. But I will start with Honorable John.
Hello, why are you punishing me when I have organs? You want them to sack me? The National Youth Council Executive, the National, all protocols being observed. I'm John, the current PRO, Public Relations Officer for National Youth Council of Nigeria, Europe Chapter, and it's a privilege to be bestowed with this great opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We know your value. Now you know Sabi yourself. We know your value. Even the organs will pardon you to go first because they know how effective you are. So are there names on the chat already? And I can see.
I can't see it, but I can see Mrs. Sarela here.
Okay.
I can
Ambassador
see.
Sarela, please. Are you able to talk? Switch on and introduce yourself, please. Is she able to talk?
I'm not sure. She's still muted. I can also see Honorable Ahmed, Embassy of Nigeria.
And that's one of our guests. We are still coming with them. We are saving the best for the last. They are not letting the cats out yet. We are still coming to our guests, but we want to first appreciate those who have been contributing to the progress of this council. So anyway, if no one is dropping names, I think we have to go ahead. When they are coming in, they will introduce themselves. But we want to also acknowledge the presence of some of our guests, but I don't want to let the cat out of the bag yet. Still be salivating to see the wonderful personality that we have in our midst. So without wasting much of our time, there is a short video that we want to inspire ourselves with as youth. In the speech of, still referring to the wonderful speech, the great speech delivered by the governor, there is a charge on UE youth. The time is now. The time is now. So please, this video will also say a thing or two about what is what the responsibility and obligation we have to ensure that we make this time count. So over to you, Honorable John.
Chike Okaigbo joins us now from New York to discuss the role of youth in rebuilding the Nigeria that we desire. It's good to have you with us, Chike. Now, let's talk about the way forward from these protests. Did they have the desired impact? And let's talk about the government's response as well. Was it sufficient, you think?
Of course not. I mean, any sensible person. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me on your show today. It's almost 8 a.m. here, so it's a little early. But in terms of the response from our government, from those who claim to lead us, it was lacking. I mean, there's so many people online who said, well, you know, the speech was empty, because it actually was. It did not respond to the demands of the people. It did not address any of our issues. And of course, once again, it shows the level of ineffectiveness that we get as a people, as citizens of a nation that should care for its people. So definitely the response was insufficient.
And Chike, do you think the youths have a role in rebuilding the Nigeria of our future?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Do you think the youths have a role to play in rebuilding the Nigeria of our future?
Of course. I think that responsibility lies on us now because the generations before us have failed in being able to do that effectively. So it is our responsibility, and I am proud of the response. I am proud of the action. I'm proud of what our young people have stepped up to do, because at the end of the day, what we are fighting for is for our lives, it's for our future, it's for posterity. And because those who have gone ahead of us, they're supposed to hand the baton to us, have failed to do that, it's important that we step up, take on that responsibility and fight for our lives.
Indeed, Chike. Now, still talking about youths rebuilding the future of Nigeria, must they protest before every grievance is met at this rate?
Of course. I mean, so sometimes people talk about protests and the inconveniences that people have experienced. And I tell you this, protests are usually a response, is a traumatic response to failed promises, is a traumatic response to the evil that has been meted against our citizens for basic human rights, education, water, power, health care, basic things that should raise the quality of life of the everyday Nigerian has been deprived. And it's not that our nation is a poor nation. These are things that are being embezzled by people who have no hearts, who have no conscience, that are responsible for leading us. So yes, I think protests are needed. I just think that sometimes I tell people this, people have different ways that they manifest disappointment. They have different ways that they manifest evil being done to them. And yes, the looting will happen, the vandalism will happen, but then there are other people also in the background who are doing great things. There are people who are protesting peacefully. There are people who are, building coalitions to respond to the ineffective leadership, the failed responsibilities of our leaders. So there are diverse things that are happening at the same time that speak to the importance of our citizens, of our people, standing up to defend and to fight for the things that, are due us as citizens. So yes.
It's been about 2 weeks now, and after all this hashtag EndSARS protests across the country and the disbursement of the protesters, what next, do you think, for Nigeria's youth?
So I think for me, the most important thing is that we forget the power we have as young people in Nigeria, right? I put out a video a couple of days ago, and I talked about the power of a voter's card. Just like I said, I do not believe the protest should end. Those who are protesting across the world, it's important that happens. But also, it's also important that we come together strategically to ask ourselves that question, what next, right? In our constitution, it allows for recalling our legislators. We don't have the power to impeach the president or the vice president. The legislator has that power, right? But we can hold the legislator accountable. We can hold them. Our constitution allows for us to recall our legislators. So it requires that you need 50% of registered voters in every constituency. Based on the number of registered voters in the last election, 51.1% of them were people between the ages of 18 and 35, who currently would be between 20 and 37, right? Now, in addition to our parents, in addition to all the other registered voters who support what we are fighting for, because we are fighting for the heart of our nation, we're fighting for the soul of our nation. If we all band together and sign those petitions, that would remind our legislators that they are accountable to us, and use that as leverage to get them to start to do work, not just embezzle funds, not just take home money and do no work, or go to work and go to sleep. We make them do work. That becomes one way we start to hold them accountable. Besides, of course, fighting to make sure that everything, including, people who are hungry can get food, people who are not educated can get educated, whatever resources that we can pull together as citizens to make sure that the next man can survive, it's our responsibility at this point, because we have leaders who do not understand their responsibility to provide and to protect for the people.
Indeed, Chike. Now, would you say there's a realistic reawakening on the part of youth to take their destiny in their hands, and how could they sustain the momentum in upholding their rights?
But to a large extent, I think COVID was sort of a lesson. It's unfortunate that there were people who died from it, but I think one positive thing COVID did for us was to expose the immense evil and wickedness of the people we have as leaders, right? I don't know, I'm sure you guys have seen current videos of people discovering, COVID-19 palliatives in warehouses across the nation, and I looked at them, right?
Yeah.
So I think what it did was it reminded us, I mean, people had nothing to lose. When you get someone to the point of having nothing to lose, they fight back, and that's what's happening. So yes, it is very realistic. I believe this is the movement we've been looking for a lifetime. And I am proud that I am part of this generation who has woken up to say, you know what? There is a power that lies within us. And we can only manifest it when we come together collectively to demand that which is due us. So I am hopeful. I am very excited at what's going on. It's unfortunate that we are losing lives. That is the part that I wish is not happening. But a generation has awoken. And I think that this will resonate not just across Nigeria and for our futures, but across Africa and across the world for people of African descent who are being persecuted and discriminated against globally.
Indeed, you just said a generation has awoken. The question is, why now? And why is this conversation of nation rebuilding important now?
I believe that this was important 10 years ago, right? But you can never be late in starting the conversation. So now would constantly remain the perfect time, the right time to have these discussions, to fight for these things that, are due us. When I ran for office last year, people asked me, hey, you're going to lose. Why are you doing this? And I said it was important to start to do this because this is a fight for our lives. The rest of the world is moving into this future that we are not prepared for. Nigeria is the largest Black nation in the world, Africa's largest economy, yet has the highest number of people who live in extreme poverty.
Indeed, all right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Awesome. So it is important that we understand the urgency of now. It's important that we look to the past to understand why this moment is important, is urgent, and that we leverage everything that we can, everything that we have within us to fight. Otherwise, we're walking into a future that would be so dystopian that many of us would wish that we did not see these times. So I am excited about what's going on, and I hope and I pray that as we re-strategize, as we refocus our attention on the things that matter the most in terms of empowering the everyday Nigerian, that we achieve positive results for us, for posterity as well.
Indeed, Chike Okaigbo, a former presidential aspirant in the 2019 elections. He was just 35 years old and one of the youngest in that group.
Thank you, Mr. John, for that, Honorable John, for that wonderful. I do hope we were able to pick, because I picked so many things from what he said. I do hope we're able to pick one or two things. To start the conversation, I would love conversation to go on the chat. To start the conversation, one key thing I first noticed, one is 35 years. So it's even the best category of what they call youth. Number two is the fact that he was 2019 presidential candidate, which means he was not scared to dare what most youths will run away from. Most youths would prefer to be what they call it, don't let us to follow many bets. What is calling us to do is to take responsibility, to take that leadership responsibility And that's what this council is providing for us. I do hope. But I have so many you can list here, but I want us to, whatever you think, the key thing that you notice out of what he said, please drop it on the chat as the conversation goes on. So thank you for that wonderful picture, Honorable John. So next, please, we are expecting more chats, whatever. So that will make you to remember what you noticed from what he said. That will keep it in mind as you will keep going down. The responsibility that we youths have, and the fact that we need to take that responsibility. If not, he said, we will, God forbid, we will regret ever being part of this generation. And this is not to call anybody to revolt or do anything. No, it's just to continue to call our attention to the responsibility we have, and of course, to continue to remind our leaders what they need to do right. Yes, that is lovely. Thank you, Honorable John, making our legislators accountable. He said we cannot sack the president, but we can make legislators accountable. And that is so, so wonderful. It's not to, the purpose is not to sack anybody. The purpose is not even to chase anybody out. The purpose is to ensure that we do the right thing, either as leaders or as followers. Both the leaders and followers have responsibility. So thank you for that. Wonderful. So next, without wasting much of our time, we will go to the first lecture. That is coming from Irene Chinembudu Job. Is Miss Irene on the call right now? And they will then be sold in order to cover some times. Is Miss Irene on the call?
Is she there?
Not sure. I can't say. I don't think I can see anybody by Irene on the call.
Without wasting much of our time, she will be joining us. I think is Dr. Akimbode ready?
Oh yes, I'm ready. If
Great. So you will open the floor. After you, we have the ambassador to deliver his own speech. We just listen to one great speech that keeps reminding us the responsibility. And of course, we have so many topics to deal with, one of which Dr. Akimbode is taking off. Dr. Akimbode is a member of he's a member of the family. And of course, as the title indicates, is a PhD holder and history international relations in Stockholm University. And of course, he's been part of the committee that we've been dealing to so many things that we are trying to make this council work forward. And of course, he's also sharing a committee membership with me on the constitution. So he has been so active and he has been so wonderful as far as this council is concerned. So it's to have him in our midst. And of so much belief God in him to bless us today further. So without much ado, I hand over the mic to you, Dr. Akimbode.
Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you for the introduction. Just some slight correction. I did my PhD at Department of Economic History and International Relations, Stockholm University. But at the moment, I'm affiliated to the Swedish Defense University, where I do some teaching, some supervision, and some research on a short-term basis. So just that small addition. I would also like to appreciate the executive of the National Youth Council of Nigeria for inviting me to have this opportunity to talk on diaspora voting, issues, challenges, and way forward. I think this is a very interesting group, and I think that the topic cannot be more appropriate at this time. Please permit me to stand on all the existing.
Honorable John, please mute everybody. Sorry. Please mute
Okay.
everybody.
All right. So please permit me to stand on all the existing protocol that the governor already established, and kindly allow me to proceed with the lecture. I'll be, as brief as I can be. I have maybe about 3 pages of text, but I'll run through it as clearly as I can and as apt as I can be. So I begin with this, like 3 stories that all of us can relate with. So I said Tope Adebayo came to the UK in 2005. He worked as a security guard for the first 6 years. He saved some pounds and decided to return to Nigeria in 2015. 10 years after his stay in the UK to make investments in Nigeria. His business seemed to start on a strong note, but crumbled shortly afterward. Uchenna Okonkwo, an American-based Nigerian, is a social worker. Back home in Nigeria, his mother suffers from a chronic medical condition. She needs urgent medical attention, but there is no functional hospital in Oboloko where she lives to attend to her needs. He can only send some money to his mother for food and for basic medical attention. He does not yet have the capability to bring his mother abroad for a medical treatment. So the failure to attend to his mother's health resulted in deterioration and her eventual death. Musa works as a driver in Canada. He got to Canada 7 years ago and has since then been sending money to Nigeria to erect a modest 5. Unfortunately, Musa's cousin, who received all the money that Musa has been sending to Nigeria, neither bought a land nor built anything for Musa. All he has done is use the money Musa sends to him to solve his own immediate financial problems. At one point or another, we have all experienced, directly or indirectly, this type of scenario. These 3 scenarios that I painted, in which you go to Nigeria with your investment, sometimes you don't make returns on the investment. On the other hand, you have existing family challenges. It could be health, it could be education, it could be whatever that people are trying to deal with. And of course, on the third hand, you have a situation where someone is trying to make investment, but their investment is going down the drain in Nigeria. And of course, although I know people who have experienced at least one of these above scenarios, this is part of the realities of our relationship between people in Nigeria and those that are abroad. Even if this is not what we have seen personally, the social media and our ever-growing Nollywood industry, they give us near similar experiences, and we must have come across something like this in movies. And we know that movie is nothing but a depiction, of reality. Of course, there can be exaggeration here and there. More fundamentally, these examples point in the direction of a serious problem that bedevils our dear country, Nigeria. That is the absence of structures for which people can be held accountable for their action. So, most of the time we talk about our leaders and, not being able to hold our leaders accountable. But of course, we also see that there are many things that followers or citizens do that they get away with, that if they are in a system that works, they will not be able to get away with them. But of course, it is not unexpected that people will want to do things and get away with them. Because anywhere that there is no law, they say there is no sin, which means that it still circles back to those that lead and how they lead, the structures they put in place to be able to deal with these challenges. So this is a problem common in a place where leadership and governance crisis exist. So leadership crisis is a situation where there are leaders or some will say rulers, but there is no mutual relationship that exists between the leaders and the followers. These results are in lack of collective decision-making and implementation between the leaders and the followers. That is what I would call a leadership problem. Leaders exist, but their relationship between them and their followers is not mutual to the extent that you will expect them to reach agreement on how to be able to move what they want to move forward. Of course, this is closely connected to governance crisis. Governance crisis occurs when there is government, but there is either bad or lack of governance. So governance, if we follow Francis Fukuyama's definition, it says governance is government's ability to make and enforce rules and to deliver services. So governance is government's ability to make and enforce rules and to deliver services. So while there are rules in Nigeria, Nigeria's leadership and governance crisis have undermined the enforcement of rules. And more importantly, they have stalled national growth and development. So when you have leadership and governance crisis, the effect is that there will be the stalling, there will be impediment to growth and development. As some have correctly observed, Nigeria's problem is not the shortage or absence of laws, because we have a law in abundance. Some have said one of the main problems is the presence of impunity. That is, people can do things and get away with them without being able to account for their actions. So it does not matter whether they are leaders or followers, but many people get away with many things. So in the book titled The Trouble with Nigeria, the late author and novelist Chinua Achebe opined that the trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a failure of leadership. According to him, there is nothing wrong with the Nigerian people and psyche. Of course, this is a contentious statement. But the problem is that the leadership of Nigeria has failed the people. As he explained further, he said, there is nothing wrong with the Nigerian land or climate or water or air or anything else. The Nigerian problem is the unwillingness or inability of its leaders to rise to the responsibility, to the challenge of personal example, which are the hallmark of true leadership. So in that particular very small book, he was even talking about the need to understand that leadership can make the difference. Citing the case of Murtala Muhammad in 1975 when he came to power, Achebe was saying that Murtala was able to overnight transform people's behavior because of his no-nonsense character. And if we also look at 2000 and I think it was 15 when Buhari first came into power, the first few weeks, everyone sort of sat up to further emphasize the importance of leadership. A leadership that understands what it needs to do, but that is forthright enough to be able to do it. Of course, all of this I'm saying to sort of lay a foundation for what I intend to say about diaspora voting. So although many may challenge this seemingly simple hypothesis, many believe that Achebe is not too far from the truth, especially when it relates to the character of the Nigerian leadership. I will say leadership and governance and the enforcement of laws and regulations constitute essential parts of Nigeria's problem, and how we deal with these issues will go a long way to determine how we solve our national problem. Remember that I said Fukuyama defines governance as a government's ability to make and enforce rules and to deliver services. So it is not just to make laws alone, but also to enforce them. And to deliver services, if we look at our constitution, we will also see that the constitution talks about the essence of government. One is protection of its population, but also the welfare. So when you combine those two, you see that they become part of what government is supposed to do. So it is important to note that one of the ways that leadership and bad governance crisis can be resolved is by electing intellectually sound, economically and technologically savvy, and politically committed and effective leadership. So if we want to change the course of event, we have to consider the quality of leadership. Such leaders have qualitative, enviable, and reputable character. Of course, going back to the example that Achebe used of Murtala Mohammed, we saw that the personality of that leader, at least for a moment, transformed many things. So if leaders have the ability to transform things, who becomes leaders then become a very important question. So the leaders hold themselves and their people in high esteem, the leaders that transform things. It is a fact, however, that almost all of the general elections in Nigeria have been quite problematic. In many cases, the outcomes of the elections are contested because they are seen as seriously controversial and compromised. And the declared winners of the election are not collectively accepted as leaders by a vast majority of the population. So if you check all the records, most of the people that emerge out of our elections are seen as, quite controversial winners. They are not really considered as winners of the elections. Of course, INEC, which is the official body, gives them the victory, and our court system, tribunal and the Supreme Court, they sort of approve them. But there is still a legitimacy crisis that surrounds their victory. I mean, if we take one example, in 2007, the winner of that election, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, he admitted that the process that produced him as president was quite faulty. And it was on the basis of that he set up the Ways Commission, the Ways panel. And the Ways panel, of course, came up with some recommendation. Unfortunately, Yar'Adua passed away while in office. And I am not sure that much was done to actually effect the recommendation of that commission. But the point that I'm making is that elections are usually contested, and their outcome are even more so contested and in courts. In the last election, the 2023 election, there were cases of violence, voter intimidation, voter suppression, and so on and so forth in different parts of the country. The fact that the declared winner of the election has only a small fraction of the votes further raises legitimacy question. I mean, if you look at the number of voters, I think about 23 million people voted. And out of that, President Tinubu got about 8-point-something million votes, just some little million votes above the opponent, and then the second runner-up. So if you combine the votes of the two other candidates, you see that it is much more than the vote of the president, which again raises a legitimacy question. But the fact that the declared winner of the election has only a small fraction of the vote further raises a legitimacy question for the Tinubu presidency. Of a more significant importance to those of us in Europe and other parts of Africa is our inability to participate in the elections, especially as voters. So the Nigerian diaspora were prevented from voting, even though some have the voters card and directly or indirectly get involved in happenings in Nigeria. And I'm glad that the president also mentioned that many of us are interested in what is going on in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, many of us follow developments than some people in Nigeria. That is the reality, So the situation is that some of us also carry Nigeria's voters card, of course, with pride, hoping that someday we'll be able to participate in the process. And, if we participate, of course, it can alter the outcome of the election. Either way, it does not mean that it may not be contentious, but at least we can still have a say in the electoral process. So the diaspora, as we know, constitutes a portion of the nation's population that is based abroad or that is outside of the country of their origin. So while many travel for economic reasons, others travel for other purposes. In all, the diaspora constitutes a key part of a country's population abroad. They are not just the unofficial ambassadors of their country. They, at least many of them, constitute a pool of educated, energetic, well-informed, and capable individuals. Professor Paul Zeleza, a historian and a public intellectual, states that the African diaspora constitutes one of the continent's most valuable assets. And I believe that Nigerian diaspora also, they constitute one of Nigeria's most valuable assets. I will go as far as saying this population, alongside the youth in Nigeria, is far more valuable than the natural resources that we rely on as a nation. So we place a lot of premium on crude oil, on this and that, but the human capital is actually of more value in terms of the ability to reproduce so many things over time. So if nothing at all, the exploit of our youth in the fintech sector is a pointer to the power of the youth to change their own fortunes and that of the country. If we also look at the entertainment industry, the Nollywood, the music industry, Afrobeat, we see that a lot of things are happening that are showing that the youth can actually transform Nigeria's fortune, not just their own fortune, but the country's fortune by the dint of their hard work. So many Nigerians abroad are doing massive exploits. Nigeria has a large diaspora population. Some estimates show that Nigerians in the diaspora, they are about 15 to 20 million people. If all the Nigerians in diaspora are documented, I have a feeling there will be more than 20 million people. And this is my guess, that we definitely are more than 20 million people abroad. I don't know the figure in Europe, but I know it will be also very high. Now, this will mean that Nigeria in diaspora has more than 10% of Nigeria's total population of 200 million. If we are more than 20 million and the population is 200 million, then we have more than 10% of the population abroad. Interestingly, many of these people are in the voting age. So many of us are young people that are more than 18 and are able to vote. So if we recall, in the last election, although 93 million people registered for the election, only 23 million people participated in the elections. So if out of these 20 million diaspora people, only 10%, only 10 million decided to participate in the election, you can imagine how much it will alter the outcome of the election. The total number of those that participated in 2023 general election were only 23 million. So 3 million more than the estimated 20 million people in the diaspora. This suggests that the votes from the diaspora can swing the results of the election in any way. However, for a long time, the question of diaspora participation in election has been a contentious question. So while some argue for diaspora voting, others are against it, or at least propose a cautious optimism that diaspora voting is possible. So I want to briefly lay out this debate and, of course, make a case for diaspora voting, because I believe that there shouldn't be any reason why we shouldn't participate in elections.
But I'm not debating.
Sorry? Are you saying something?
Please, no, please go ahead. Honorable John, please, can you?
Okay. Yeah, so I was saying that I see no reason why we shouldn't participate in voting. So what does the diaspora voting mean? I mean, just some kind of conceptual work. Diaspora voting is otherwise known as external voting, you know, and according to Jean-Michel Lafleur, he says the practice of casting vote from outside the national territory, which is not something that is new. And he claims that it is something that has been given many names over time, such as external voting, immigrant voting, expatriate voting, diaspora voting, absentee voting, absent voting, out-of-country voting, extraterritorial voting, transnational voting, and so on and so forth, you know, which do not necessarily cover the same practice. Andrew Ellis claims that the first documented experience preceded the era of modern democracy, that it is not actually a new development. So according to Ellis, the Roman Emperor Augustus allowed senators in newly founded colonies to send their votes for the city offices of Rome by mail. He also argued that much later on, the US state of Wisconsin was the first to allow its soldiers fighting for the Union during the Civil War to cast external votes in 1862. So from the turn of the 20th century to World War II, external voting legislation was implemented in different parts of the world. They all shared the characteristic of restricting the possibility by votes from abroad to specific professional categories of citizens. New Zealand in 1890 and Australia in 1902, for instance, restricted external voting rights to seafarers in the first pieces of legislation they adopted. They have now since changed to at least allow all of their populations to vote. Of course, you know that in certain democracies, it wasn't all of the population or at least all of the adults that participated in the election. But of course, this has changed over time. And with these changes come the opportunity for nationals that are abroad to participate in election. Countries like Canada allow military personnel abroad to take part in elections by mail in 1915, with the United States following in 1942, and India in 1950, even India. So similarly, France adopted specific legislation for administrators stationed in the occupied Rhineland in 1924, while the United Kingdom invited citizens who were working abroad in matters of critical national importance to vote in 1945. We can go on and on the history of diaspora participating in their country's election. The process of diaspora voting entails allowing, simply put, the diaspora population to vote alongside the home population in national elections. So that is just essentially what we are talking about. Now, there are people that are for and against. People that are against, they are against it for a whole range of reasons, but I'll mention two. And I call these those that are against diaspora voting. There are two major cons to diaspora voting according to this category of people. So the first is that the issue of allegiance. When citizens of a country move abroad and get, in some cases, permanent residency or even citizenship, they may shift their allegiance and stop being loyal and patriotic to their home country. This can affect the commitment to their home country and the interest and development of their home country. Of course, some even say that they can sell out their country and use that voting right to alter things in certain ways. There is such an argument, at least in the literature. So the fear of being tools in the hands of foreign countries is a matter of national security importance that many countries do not take lightly. We can, of course, come back to this if we want to debate it. But of course, the point is that because of national security interest, states do not just give up such a thing to their citizens that are abroad, because they don't assume, they don't take it that their citizens abroad have the same rights as those at home. The other issue is about the logistics involved in the process. While the electoral body can do their best to make it logistically possible for diaspora voting has not yet been included in the Electoral Act. So there are two issues here. First is the issue of law, which is legality, that, okay, you can have the law that gives Nigerians abroad the opportunity to vote. But there's another aspect of logistics. So the INEC chairman, for example, stated when he went to Chatham House last year, he stated as follows. He said, voting by those in the diaspora should be a settled issue. And if you ask me, I will say you are preaching to the converted. That is, he is in support of diaspora voting. But the commission does not have the power to make it happen. The enabling law will have to provide for it to happen. So he is saying that there is a legal issue that has not been addressed, even though INEC has the capability and capacity to conduct diaspora voting. So I don't think many politicians agree with him. Many politicians do not yet believe that the logistics are in place to make diaspora voting a reality. So while INEC sees a legal problem, politicians see logistic problem. And one of the politicians, interestingly, is our current president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. As at then, he was a presidential candidate of the APC. And he was at Chatham House as well, Chatham House in the UK, in London. And Tinubu, who is now Nigeria's president, says, if you make contributions to the economy with the remittances that you are making, your right to vote should not be abrogated but promoted. You know, so he is in support of diaspora voting, but he has a clause to his support. So he says, however, we are still building confidence in our democratic and voting system. INEC is still yet to assure us during this election that electronic transmission, the technology being used for accreditation, and the total vote count is reliable, dependable, and assuring in our democratic process before we introduce a complicated element of ballot. So while Tinubu is not against diaspora voting, and there are many people even within his circle that support diaspora voting. For example, the chairman of Nigerian Diaspora Commission, Honorable Abike Dabiri, as well as some APC chieftain also support this idea. His conclusion is that Nigeria is not yet ready or fully prepared for diaspora voting. I don't know if that is accurate, but this is his own view. However, my conviction is that if large amount of foreign exchange could be easily sent from abroad to Nigeria, there is no reason not to embrace diaspora voting. Not allowing diaspora population with all the rights and privileges of a Nigerian citizen, the right to vote, in my view, amounts to diaspora population being disenfranchised.
Dr. Akimbode, please check your chat.
Oh, okay. Chat, okay. Sorry. I will be done in about a minute. Okay, yeah, I know I spent some time. I'll be done in about a minute. Okay, so I believe that diaspora should be able to participate in election, to vote, amount to, Nigeria receives on the average 30 billion from the diaspora population, and the president, of course, alluded to that. This is because the enfranchisement of citizens abroad is now part of a larger state strategy of developing external citizenship in order to capture what some scholars call diaspora resource. So to the best of my knowledge, the technology for the transfer of this money, it works efficiently. And I think that INEC is already putting a lot in place with IREV, with BVAS, and so on. It may not be perfect, but I think there should be a starting point. I conclude. It may be necessary to note that many Nigerians remain patriotic to Nigeria, even if they are out of the country. And even if they do not, if they have dual nationality, for example, many are heavily invested in Nigeria. They show commitment to development in the country and connect with their families and friends that are back home. It is rare to find 2 or 3 Nigerians sitting or standing together without discussing or debating the development in Nigeria. By embracing diaspora voting and making it happen, we give hope to the youth in Europe that they will not forever be disenfranchised just because they are outside their home country. This may help in developing the country and, of course, advancing our democratization process. I thank you all for listening. Thank you.
Wow. That was so massive. That's a whole article that can be published, the whole paper on its own, and it really shows the presenter is an academician, of course. If we say we should allow how it spins, how passionate we are, we will go forever. That was. Please help me appreciate Dr. Akimbode for that wonderful. Use your chats, use your reactions on the chats to appreciate him, please. That was so massive, and of course, thank God this conversation is documented, and our leaders will continue to hear from us. So from this, we have so many people who have that ideas on how to go about these things. And of course, thank God for this council that is giving us that platform to start to change our history through this. So without wasting much of our time, our academician has taken much of it. So I would like to call in our wonderful guests, the Nigerian ambassador, the Nigerian embassy to Turkey. The next, please, Ambassador Honorable John, if you please continue to monitor this and
Yes,
mute. There are so many interruptions on. Just a minute, please. Also carried away by the wonderful speech by my doctor.
just to inform you that the other guest is around, Irene.
Yes, after the Turkish embassy, you can.
Yeah, I'm aware that Irene is around. Please, can the ambassador commence his lecture? Is a very
Yes, he's the next person right now. And so it's my honor to present to you our wonderful representative from the Nigerian embassy, our ambassador who has been this many citation to him. His name is Aminu Nasheed Ahmad. He was born in Kura local government, Kano State. His education was in MSc. He was in international relations. He has an MSc international relations and of course BSc in political science. He shows he's the right person for the post he's holding. Attended various courses in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. He's a fellow of Korean Foundation for Diplomats. Concerning his working experience, he joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs more than 15 years ago. That was a very long time. An experienced person, so to say. Work in various departments and divisions such as European Affairs, Regions, Protocols, Consular, and Administration. He is once the Nigerian High Commission to Pakistan. He's also been to Nigerian Embassy. He's worked in Nigerian Embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He's currently in Nigerian Embassy in Turkey. He is the counselor on that regard, and he is in charge of the timing of so many things, activities going on in Turkey. So he's one representing Nigerian Embassy, Turkey, and the person of our home person. Anyway, he's becoming part of the family and is a youth, so to say, which we are proud of. Honorable Aminu Nasheed Ahmad is to talk on the Nigerian unity, now the unity of the youth, and how that will affect the changes that we require. So it's my pleasure to welcome you, sir, and I do hope you bless us with your wealth of knowledge today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the elaborate introduction. However, I will start by saying, as you mentioned, my name is Aminu Nasir Ahmad. I am standing here before you to represent His Excellency Ambassador Ismail Abba Yusuf, Nigerian Ambassador to the Republic of Turkey. He was supposed to be with us here this afternoon. However, due to exigency of work, he directed me to represent him. So I will read his speech as directed. The Leadership Nigerian Youth Council, the Governor Nigerian Youth Council of the Governor National Youth Council of Nigeria, Europe, Leadership of Cambridge University, Nigerian Society, Nigerian Student Association, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to express profound gratitude to the organizers of this discourse with the theme, Diaspora Youth, Turning Challenges to Opportunities to Become Good Nigerian Ambassadors in Europe. I commend your initiative for carefully selecting the theme among others. I am confident that the informed perspectives you shall collect on this, as well as other related topical issues today, will steer the intellectual climate of this association and ultimately contribute to solving the merits of current and the emerging challenges facing Nigerian youth in Europe and elsewhere. Distinguished listeners, I observed that subtopics were itemized for interrogation at this discourse, and I chose to talk on the topic, unity among youth, encouraging further unity among the youth in Europe. Before I delve into the conversation, let me begin by stressing the value of youth in today's world. Who is a youth? According to the United Nations, youth is better understood as a period of transition from dependence of childhood to adulthood's independence. Youth in Nigeria is a person between 18 to 29 years. This explains why NYCN is limited to graduates under the age of 30 years. This is a very crucial period of development. This time in life also teaches how to make decisions and start making reasonable choices and build character for the betterment of future. How? For the future of our society rests on the contribution of youth. It is estimated that there are about 1.5 billion youth in the world. Therefore, with the new technological advancement in information and communication technology, youth are connected to each other. Youth are connected to each other like never before. Young people want to and already contribute to the resilience of their communities, proposing innovative solutions, driving social progress, and inspiring political change. They are also agents of change and drive to advance sustainable development goals to improve lives of people and health of the planet. Dear listeners, Nigeria is uniquely endowed with diverse society forming different cultural affinities. Nigerian society in Europe constitutes one of the large population contributing positively to the society of their host community. Population of Nigerian youth in Europe is progressively increasing, and this should be sustained with positive impact on the society they live and at home in Nigeria. However, the question to ask is how this diversity translates to opportunities. What is the level of integration of Nigerian community in Europe into the larger society? What is the level of unity and mobilization among the Nigerian community in Europe? Do they participate in local politics? Do they engage their local representatives? Do they unite and form a formidable force of socio-political mobilization for inclusion? Does their large number translate to advantage? These are questions begging for answers. Distinguished listeners, let us look at your neighborhoods. Take a lesson from Asian community around you. Take, for example, Indian and Pakistani communities around you. Is the level of their commitment to their local community vis-a-vis their unity at the same level with that of Nigerian community? Today, the mayor of London is Sadiq Khan. a British citizen of Pakistan origin. The Prime Minister of England is Rishi Sunak, a British citizen of Indian origin. These achievements are a demonstration of an excellent level of integration of these communities into the British system. I am aware that some Nigerians are deep into local politics in their communities. The question remains, what is the level of mobilization of Nigerians to support those individuals? Unity is a key driver that leads to success. With unity and the positive contribution to your local community, you will be part of decision-making process at the areas you live. In fact, many challenges like alienation, exclusion, racism, etc., can be resolved through community solution. Now, who is the Nigerian ambassador? As Nigerians, wherever you are in the world, your action or inaction is a reflection on the image of your country of origin. Whether you like it or not, you are ambassadors of Nigeria within your local communities. My advice is for you to make Nigeria proud by portraying good character. Be of exemplary behavior and think wisely whenever you are taking any action. In my conclusion, our youth in Europe have potential to make impacts in their society. Nigerian community are known to be well educated. This education is a tool which makes you to be critical thinker with the capacity to identify and make impact on the existing power structure and the barriers to change. This requires mobilization, unity, and speaking with one voice. I thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. Can I quickly request for something from you, sir?
Okay, please.
Yeah, is there any way we can get this your write-up and sent to us?
Okay, I will clear from my principal, then I'll get back to you through your coordinator.
Yes, so try and do that. You can forward it through the email.
Okay.
And press it to me, but forward it to my secretary.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm glad.
You're very welcome.
We also want to hold a meeting. Myself and my executive want to also hold a meeting with His Excellency. So I will want to give a date so that myself and my executive, about 4 or 5 of us, we want to hold a Zoom meeting with him for an important it's an important meeting.
Okay. Okay, what I will suggest
about Europe.
Okay, what I will suggest, just send one paragraph, then we'll take it up.
Okay, that would be great. My name is Colin Sidausa.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation. It was short, precise, and of course, loaded. I picked so many things from it. We are not just in Europe. How much impact are we making? And then how are we encouraging ourselves to work together? And the example of Rishi Sunak and Sadiq Khan, it's always a challenging one for us as Nigerians to see how we can work together as in unity. Because there, as you have rightly said, therein lies our strength. Therein lies whatever we are craving for. The problem of alienation, discrimination still exists anywhere. And the only way we can achieve success towards that is when we work together in one. So that was so massive and so precise. So thank you for that wonderful presentation. Not just honoring our call, but also the willingness to share from your wealth of knowledge with us. So without wasting much of our time, I think we can take a break now. Let's just.
So, sorry, most of us has something to do. Let's just call on the next speaker, because she also, maybe she has something to do, and we are using the opportunity to. So we need to really call on the next speaker, please, and let us.
Sticking to this anyway. If everyone is okay by that, the next speaker is Irene Inembudu Job. Is she on the call now?
She is. She
Can
is.
you, she is okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you. Nice to have you. Nice to have you on.
Thank you.
She is.
Thank you.
She is a wonderful friend of the family. I've been residing in Canada, and then we've been receiving so many informative relationship from her. So I believe it's another opportunity to get from our wealth of knowledge as well, to see how we can motivate ourselves, and then things that we need to do concerning being the youth. And of course, she's a youth, so she understands. She's she's at the battlefield with us, so I believe we can learn from as we go. So it's a pleasure to invite Irene Chinebujo to the podium right now. Please.
Thank you so much.
Over to you.
Thank you so much, distinguished. I'm not sure if there are any ladies here. I hope I'm not the only lady here, but
there are ladies. There are ladies.
Okay. I did see a few, but I think they left. But I bring you greetings from Calgary, Alberta. And I just want to say a special thank you to Ambassador Colin Dahosa. Thank you for, inviting me on this platform. And of course, congratulations to you on your appointment. I'm so happy that I got a chance to listen to the last two speakers because the truth is we're all connected, we're all connected, whether it's when it comes to unity. I mean, unity is like connection, right? As well as what I'm going to be speaking about, which is economic challenges and some of the information that was shared by the last speaker. You would hear some of it in what I'm going to share, because at the end of the day, we all have a role to play. And I like to look at so of course, the theme is something that got my attention, right? Turning challenges into opportunities, which is technically what I do. It's almost like my specialty. I'll give you a bit about my background. I'm a chartered insurance professional in Canada, which is what the CIP stands for. And been in the industry for over 7 years. And outside of that, I'm a businesswoman, okay? And when I look at economic challenges, it's a global situation that it's not unique to only Nigerians or Nigeria as a country. But we have to understand that even when there is a recession, there are certain businesses that are still flourishing. I'll give you an example, right? There are different things that affect the economy globally. I don't want to tailor it down just to Europe or Nigeria. I like to look at it holistically, right? And one of it is inflation. One of it could be climate change. And the biggest is, of course, the pandemic in recent time that hit us. These are global things. Maybe for something like climate change, it might not be as severe as it is in certain parts of the world, but it's something that affects everybody. Another thing is demand and supply, as well as the supply chain, right? So when it comes to turning challenges into opportunities, I believe that somehow God has blessed us as not just the country, but as a people. that in any situation that we find ourselves, we're able to flourish. But the question is, do we even recognize our power? Do we recognize our strength? Do we recognize that even when we just put 2 and 3 together, we're creating magic as a people? I don't believe that as a people, we understand our strength. I've had the privilege of living in Canada for over 10 years. And sometimes when I look at the climate that we have, which is mostly cold, and what we have back in Nigeria, I'm able to see the opportunity that we have back home. And I'm able to create opportunities within the season and everything that comes with why I don't necessarily like the cold weather in Canada, right? So just like the last speaker said, are we participating in local politics in our various host countries? Are we a part of the policy-making processes? Are we a part of the communities that bring about change? What is our community like? Are we investing within our own community? Are we learning from the people around us? Like he talked about the Indians and the Pakistanis, and the Chinese people. They keep their money within their community. They recycle this money, right? Is it like grocery stores? Is it businesses? They have businesses. And I mean, just follow me closely because, like I said, we're all connected and everything is connected. And when it comes to economy, right, we have to have the audacity to want to succeed, not just settling for just enough, which is something that I've identified within the Nigerian community, okay? I've identified this not just, I don't think it's specific to just North America or Canada. We sometimes are okay with just enough. Oh, you have a good paying job, you know, you have, you know, a steady income. How about owning major franchises? I'm sure you guys have Sobeys and, you know, some of these big brands, right? I'll tell you something, in recent time, because of the awareness, just like I'm having this conversation, and giving people the audacity to dream big and understand that we don't always have to think of, oh, now I'm abroad, now I live here. The only thing, and this is no disrespect, we don't have to think small, to think that, oh, the only thing you can do is maybe own a restaurant. And even the restaurants, most times they're small. Most times our people want to cook from home. You would understand that there are people all over the world. Nigerians are all over the world. Every time I travel to any foreign country, the moment I arrive in my destination, I'm looking for a Nigerian restaurant. Guess what? Eventually, I'm not going to be the only person that is going to be looking for a Nigerian restaurant. Other African nationalities, whether it's the Ghanaians, the Zimbabweans, all of these people, they love the Nigerian meals, right? But I find that we settle and we want to play it safe most times. We have access to getting loans that can really set up businesses that can be transferred to the next generation and have own franchises. But most times we choose to play it safe. And when I'm talking about these economic challenges, I'm not only going to base it on diaspora. I'm also going to make reference to Nigeria, right? Because what you have in Europe can eventually be a brand that you can build in Nigeria, because eventually Nigeria is going to be open to tourism, right? Don't forget, I mentioned climate change as one of the challenges, or one of the things that affects the economy in certain parts of the world. Why? Because they're not able to promote tourism throughout the year. But guess what? Where we come from, we're blessed to have seasons that are almost like you're in Hawaii, you know, you can boast of having a schedule that promotes tourism. But do you think that we utilize it? Certain people would say, oh, there's so many things that affects that would not allow us to promote tourism as much as we should. One of which is security, right? Now, that aside, the reason that I made reference to tourism is because that is such a huge market. And if people like you and I start to sell the idea of building a business, lifestyle business out of tourism, we're not going to wait for the Ministry of Tourism to do this, because the truth is, unfortunately, we come from a country where they don't necessarily they don't identify potential as much as you and I, who have had the privilege to live abroad and live in a country where you have seasons where, oh my God, you're so gloomy. And then when it's summer, everybody is excited, right? So you and I can appreciate what is back making mechanism or employment. One of the biggest challenges when it comes to economic challenges is unemployment or underemployment. Nigeria has the highest level of unemployment. Why are we not thinking about creating businesses? Why are we waiting for the government to give us jobs when we are so skillful? Right? So again, I said all of this is connected. We cannot look at economic crisis and the challenges that we face without identifying the opportunities that this shortfalls presents. Because guess what? Even during the pandemic, during the lockdown, where everybody was scared, oh, guess what? There are a lot of people who made a lot of money. So I think my responsibility today is to reprogram our mindset when it comes to the things that we need to do in order to ensure that we have access to money. We have not just access to money, but we have it in surplus, right? I might not have all the money that I want to have right now, but my mind is very, very rich. My mind is rich because I know that nothing is impossible. And I see opportunity in the midst of what people complain about. I could walk into a room and everybody is just in a bad mood or complaining about what is happening. And I can create $1 million opportunity from that same thing that people are complaining from. And for Nigerians to say, I have big eye, which is a good thing. I find it to be something that has helped me in my life. Okay, where I'm not just thinking about starting a business. I like humble beginnings, but when you have the bigger picture, you might shoot for the stars and not hit, or is it the skies? What they say, you shoot for the skies and you land among the stars, but at least aim to shoot very high. I talk about franchise a lot because I believe that is one of the ways to truly put a brand and make it bigger than what you as an individual who has conceived an idea could make it be, right? So my message today when it comes to economic challenges is within ourselves, whether it is in the space of politics, in the space of entrepreneurship, in the space of leadership, in the corporate world, whatever it is, we need to start to embrace the fact that nothing is going to be handed to us. And we have the capacity and we have everything that it takes to be big players in every industry, in every sector. And again, we have the numbers. I made reference to the Indians, the Chinese. These people have population. So in my community, and I'm not saying this, I don't look at it as being discriminatory or racism or whatever. In my community, if you want to buy a home, you are not going to be able to sell a home to an Indian person. It's not possible. They are in charge of the real estate for their community. I made mention to it that they keep the money within their community. The Jewish people are like that as well. But I find that when it comes to us, we are very fast to hand over our monies to anybody else other than our own people, right? It could be for lack of trust or whatever it is, but I feel like we need to embody unity in its totality, because if we don't have the mindset of being united as a people, first, we're not going to succeed beyond our own exposure as individuals. And then how then are we even going to influence the change back at home? Because believe it or not, we as a people, Nigerians in diaspora, we have so much responsibility. As a matter of fact, the change that we're going to experience in Nigeria is going to, we're going to be big players of that change, because guess what? We are the ones who have had the opportunity and the privilege to enjoy the benefits and the good governance, right? We're the ones who would sit down and we will truly cast our votes for people who truly have the capacity to deliver. Not because the person is from our tribe, not because the person is a female or a male, not because the person attends our church, not because what other reasons do they give elect people, but because we've identified this person as someone who has a proven track record and has the capacity to deliver. I'm telling you that the economic situation in Nigeria does not allow the average Nigerian to make informed decision based on the future of our country, because people are hungry. Nigeria, when it comes to inflation, when once things go up, it never comes down. When once it's up, it just goes up and it goes up and it never comes down. That is a problem. And what is the minimum wage that we're talking about? So I hope that I've not confused anybody. I hope that we can see how these things connect. And guess what? The youths, we have the largest population where the youths are the working machine of any society. And if we don't get our act together to not only ensure that we're in positions and places of power, but we also have money. I cannot lie to you that money is not a factor in anything that has to be done. Any change that has to happen in any community, any society, any country, money is a big force. And because it's still the older people that have this money, and the younger people were still dwelling on 9 to 5, paying debts, paying credit card loan, paying car loan, paying mortgage loan, paying all of these things, before you know it, the youthful days are gone. And then you now start thinking, oh, what will I do with my life now? Before you know it, frustration starts to kick in. But guess what, though? We have access. We have way more access than Nigerians have. So imagine if we are not taking advantage of the opportunities that we have in the diaspora, like access to loans. I don't know, I'm one of those people. I have the mindset of, I raise my money for my business and I don't want to take any loan from anybody. I have that mindset, but it's something that I need to get out of, because that's where the Caucasians have edge over us, because they make very good use of these credit facilities that are available. I don't know about in Europe, but in Canada, we have amazing benefits. As a matter of fact, some days you just wake up and the government has paid you money for just being, from the oil producing province, which is where I'm from, Alberta, and I look at myself, I'm like, I should be doing better. So some of these things I'm saying, I'm also reminding myself that the money is out there, we gotta grab it. The positions are out there, we gotta grab it. The opportunities are out there, we gotta grab it. And that's why I'm very much inspired by Ambassador Collins, because he has the vision And what his vision today, a lot of people stand to benefit from it, but it's only a matter of time. And I think that is my time. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I hope I didn't confuse you. And I hope that this is good enough information. I think before I close, let me close with this. Like I said, my background is in insurance. The insurance industry is the second highest employer of labor in Canada. The first is the government, followed by the insurance. The insurance industry is recession-proof, and that's kind of why I changed my career path and I went into this industry, because I wanted to understand the depth of this industry that gives this country so much money. You pay for peace of mind. You pay for insurance that you might use once in 20 years, but that system is there to protect people, not just yourself, but third parties that can get injured due to your negligence, right? And it also helps to keep record of people's behavior. And when you have a system in place that checkmates you, you're forced to behave well, because naturally human beings, we sometimes behave badly. But that industry is very important. And as important as it is, it brings a lot of money. Whether there's a recession, whether there's pandemic, whether you've lost your job, whatever the situation is, you're still going to pay your auto insurance. You're still going to pay your home. You're still going to have a homeowner policy. Because if you don't, then you're going to be, you probably have a heart attack before, even turning you're going to be panicking. The mental have that in this make claims when they have accidents. And part of the reasons
Somewhere, what is happening?
People die.
I think it's the network. Yes, it was a network.
I think she has a network challenge.
Check if she's still.
Kicked out. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I got kicked out. I was wondering what happened. So basically that's my summary. I wanted to throw light on that industry, not just because it's my industry, but because it's an industry that powers the country. Like I said, it's the second highest employer of labor in Canada. First is the government, because most things in Canada is government driven. Whether it's healthcare, a whole lot of things government driven. But again, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I do not take it for granted. I have learned so much, and I hope that my message today somewhat ignites the fire for us to go out there and just know that the possibilities are endless, and also identifying opportunities within the challenges that we face, not just as individuals, but also as a country and as a people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, wonderful sister. That was so massive. That was so informative. We thank you, and of course, the reactions on the chat shows people are so much impressed, and of course, we've learned a great deal. And I believe people will be influenced to try insurance company. The industry, as you have said, is another employer, is a large employer of labor. So probably people will start trying to see whether they can diversify. And from diversification, maybe they can have 100% concentration on that channel. So without wasting much of our time, the last lecture is on diplomacy and conflict. How do we ensure peace in a multicultural society? Our time is fast spent, but Of course, I have prepared a video. I was actually planning probably a sliding presentation or a video, depending on the time. But I will show the video. But before I do that, two things. We've talked about unity, we've talked about economy, and we've talked about voting. But how do we make these things happen? There is one great challenge that has been bedeviling our attempt to unite. There has been, even in the issue of diaspora voting, as you can see, as my doctor was saying, he said there are various views concerning it, which means the views are not harmonizing yet. And of course, like my last sister said, the economic challenge, not seeing the opportunity around us. She made mention of the Chinese, Indians, and of course, the most importantly, Jews. I've used Jewish community as example several times. Their money doesn't, Jewish money doesn't leave Jewish community. And that's why they are the richest community in the whole world. They are the richest tribe in the whole world. Before the Jewish money gets out to another community, it must have gone around the Jewish community several times. And probably they can't, what they are looking for, they can't find it. And I believe, like I said to the governor this morning, I can foresee I can sense a kind of revolution going on this moment. And that's what gave back to this council, that people are waking up to their responsibility gradually. I woke up to this morning, I saw a message sent on a group where someone listed all was it today or yesterday? Someone listed all those who are selling a human hair, the Nigerians who are selling human hair, that don't go and be contributing to the, don't go and be contributing to the other tribes or economy, contribute to Nigerian economy. And that's what we've been encouraging, as we should try as much as possible to. So what are the challenges that have been bedeviling this? When I first came into this country, I saw a kind of chaos, a chaotic situation where we have the one tribe community, the other tribe community, the Christian community, the Muslim community, the Igbo community, everybody was doing his or her own. I said, I think I have a serious duty to see what I can do about it. And to the glory of God, there has been serious integration when it comes to this. And this down to the issue of multicultural society that Nigeria is. Someone was saying Nigeria is a serious, Nigeria's case is a serious case, it's a special case. I said, no, please don't keep using that term as an excuse for us. India has even larger multicultural than Nigeria, and they have larger population than Nigeria. Same thing with China. But China is able to manage all those things to see how we can bring the diversity to beauty rather than to our, just like my sister pointed out, the issue of problem being turned into, which is the general topic of this today, being turned into, is a serious problem. How do we turn it into an opportunity? We have various cultures in Nigeria. The three major ones, don't let me mention because they are countless. We have almost 400 languages in Nigeria. So we can't really say which one is this or that. But if you are still bearing the name Nigeria, and we are talking about people in diaspora, where we are minority in this country, it will be to our own disadvantage. It will be a further problem and an opportunity for us to continue to disintegrate into further minorities, Christian group, or Igbo group, what have you. No. And that has been our major song, our major theme, and our major goal. That's how do we unite this group together? And that has been. So this video I'm going to show explains how diplomacy, we can adopt diplomacy to reduce the conflict that is existing between these different groups. Just this morning, there was a kind of chaos even on the group I belong to. Someone blocked someone, and before I know it, I was able to, God used a lot of people to be able to calm everybody down. And the song of unity still continues. And that is what even brought us all together. I first contacted, I met John to governor, and the unity has, and I can see the kind of revolution going on. And I believe this is not going to stop here, to be a further journey. And before the video, one last thing. That talks about diplomacy. Just recently, in my school, the student union has been led by one group, I don't want to mention name. They cut across all the groups in the UK. Any school you go to, anywhere you go to, you see them. They are the one dominating there. So one guy just approached me and said, how can we have a school that is an international school that comprises of over 150 countries? How can a country be the one, and that same country is even the one ruling the country right now? Well, how can the country be the one? What can we do about it? Then we collaborated together, and this guy became the president right now. What do I want to bring out of that? There is, this country believes they've taken everything for granted, that they are the one dominating. So that sense of belonging is not being created for other countries. They believe that there is not, whatever they say, is always the final say. But this time around, the sense of belonging that they did not create for others gives room for others to collaborate together to oust them. This is where diplomacy comes in. Diplomacy will allow you to see that it will sensitize us, and it reminds us that there are various cultures that is called the entity Nigeria. How do we bring this together? How do we tolerate one another? There are various religions. We started this program by asking a Muslim brother to start, and luckily enough, he started with Allah and ended with Jesus Christ. So there are various religions, various cultures. How do we harmonize this? It is through diplomacy. So please, let's see this video.
As a people with one song, with one voice, we're a nation undivided and poised. We will take us down and build our land in faith to defend what is ours. Here we are as a people with one heart for one cause. We're determined to rebuild and restore. Where freedom rises and truth prevails. Our land where there's hope for us all. Our land where there's hope for us all. We'll defend our land. We believe in this nation, and in our strength and resolve to uphold the honor of our land and for generations to come. And for generations to come. We'll defend our land. We believe in this nation, and we know we'll get there. We'll defend.
I hope this helps in calling our attention to the diversity we have among us, and then how to best see how we can make the best use of it. We recognize the fact we are not of the illusion that it's just Yoruba or Igbo or Hausa. So far, we still bear the same name. We still bear one name called Nigeria, and we are craving for to turn, like the sister said, opportunity, problem to opportunity. Like doctor said, to have diaspora voting, because if we are still having conflicting voices, of course, we can't have the same voice to talk about diaspora voting. And we are hoping that very soon there will be a unity among Nigerians. We must first remember that we are a community of different, and whatever we do, we should always put that at the back of our mind and see how we can tolerate one another to bring that unity. And of course, through that unity, the resources we hope to achieve. So thank you. I think that is all for today. It's we would like to appreciate everyone, all our speakers, starting from the Honorable Ambassador, the Ambassador to Turkey, as represented by the Chancellor himself, who has been High Commissioner himself, who has been in the service for years, and who has that wealth of experience, to our dear Dr. Akin Bodi Fasakin, and also to my wonderful sister, Irene Chinembudu Joe, from all the way from Canada, and to all our leaders on the group, and of course, to everyone who has participated in the program. I've seen my pastor. Don't let me start mentioning name. I would love to mention him anyway. Okay, Pastor Abayomi Musaku, your presence is noted and it's recognized. If you have a minute to just say hi each person, please. This is a minute before we can go. Just if you want to just open your mic and just say hi to everybody before you go. And of course, our leaders who are on the call, if you have the opportunity to say hi.
Excuse me, if I'll come in now, I would like to use this opportunity to introduce our National Secretary, Abubakar. He's a barrister, Abubakar. He is here, is the National Secretary, National Youth Council of Nigeria. They're all the way from Abuja. Secretary, sir, I want you to say something to hello youth.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
On behalf of the National Youth Council President, Ambassador Sokubo Saragbe Sokubo, the National Youth Executive, I want to sincerely appreciate the National Youth Council, the Europe chapter, and the governor for this wonderful and interesting, highly interesting lecture. I think it's a wonderful one, and this will go in a long way. I'm looking forward for more partnership programs from you people, and we're highly impressed by this. And I want to sincerely also appreciate your ESCOs, and most especially the lecturer, the people who deliver lecture for today, and our ambassador who find time to be in our midst, and every other person. I think it's a great one, and all I have to say, bravo, great one. Thank you, Mr. Governor, and looking forward for more impartive program and lectures like this. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation, and look forward on more participants in this great organization. So we are happy to have you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure to have you, sir. And we have on the call still our ambassador to the UK, and Ambassador Tarella. She has sent a message that she's unable to talk, but she's following us. So we appreciate you. Dr. Hugo Onomajuru, that's a wonderful person, a friend of the family as well. We are highly appreciated. Our indefatigable Evelyn, ever voicing Evelyn, you are appreciated as well. And then Sister Kofo Laugun, I think he sent an email yesterday. You are appreciated as well. Moradeon Ada, and my wonderful Honorable Ambassador Oludare Laura. Do you want to say one thing before we close? Oludare Laura. Honorable. Anyway, if he's unable to talk, so we also recognize the presence of Osuza to Omo Ozi, one great woman, and of course, it will be a sin not to recognize the presidents of the Cambridge University Nigerian students, the person of Stanley.
Can you please show his face?
Stanley Oyemachalu, the wonderful person. The Cambridge University has always been a good friend to us because we share the same town. We share the same city.
Stanley, say something.
The last president we both brought Peter Obi down to Cambridge, and we were on the verge of bringing Tinubu before. Anyway, we are still working on that, and
So
definitely.
please, Stanley, say something. Please.
Now another great person is there, Stanley, to work with us, and we are more than glad to always work together. And he's already. Stanley, are you able to talk? Oh, I'm not so sure. So whoever is Perry T as well, we appreciate you. And of course, all our speakers, once again, we appreciate everyone. And the indefatigable Honorable John, the Saint John, we appreciate you. And lastly, of course, our governor. We bless the name of the Lord for your life, and we thank you for always being there. So we say thank you, everyone, and we appreciate your presence here, as we call it a day. Hoping to see you. This is not going to be the end of, please. The message we've received is not go and sleep with it. Is to hear the message. That's what the Holy Book says, is to hear the message, take it and run with it. And running with it is to continue to work together. So once you are called once again, please don't say we are too troublesome. Please accept our invitation and let us continue to work together. And of course, we are open to as many suggestions as possible, and of course, as many collaborations as possible. We have to get it right this time around, and God will continue to help us as we do so. So, blessed be the name of the Lord. The closing prayer, I think, is Governor a pastor to give us the closing prayer?
Oh, I'm not a pastor. Let's Madam Kofo pray for us.
Madam Kofo Olagun. That's a female voice anyway.
I'm
Yeah.
at work. I'm at work.
Oh, so sorry about that.
Yeah, okay.
So sorry. No problem.
Okay.
So, anyway,
You
Father,
said
we
we
thank you.
have pastor here.
That reminds me. Thank you, Daddy. My pastor is here, Abayomi Musaku. Are you able to talk?
Oh,
Great,
yes.
great. Please
Thank
bless us as we go.
Let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus,
Amen.
thank you for the rare and uncommon privilege given to us to be gathered like this. Thank you for all of the insights that have been shared. Thank you for your plan for Nigeria. From the inception of the world, you have ordained it a great nation,
Yes.
evident in all compartments, from religion to technology to science to innovation. All the great things we're seeing from that nation, they are installed by you.
Yes, Lord.
We look up unto you, and we stand here this afternoon as points of contact to that nation, and we decree that your will for that country will be fulfilled.
Amen.
Ask, O Lord, that every wisdom required to bring your purpose into full actualization, let it be delivered unto everyone in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Commit the leaders unto your hands. You said, with wisdom, kings reign and princes decree justice. Wisdom to lead the nation aright. We commit everyone in the diaspora unto your hands. Oh Lord,
Yes, Lord.
exactly as it was with Daniel. He was in Babylon, and he was 10 times better than every other person. Let
Yes.
every Nigerian all across the world begin to produce good fruits that will not just impact the nations where they reside, but will go back home to produce greater results. We ask,
Amen.
Lord, that everyone here today, Lord, you will restore the time that they have spent and used to add this value back to them. And we
Amen.
pray for all of the leaders on this platform, that the wisdom to take it forward be released unto them. All of the
Amen.
intentions, plans, counsels, and instruction that is passed, the grace, O Lord, to act on them so that they will not just be reduced to mere theories, be released
Amen.
to everyone.
Amen.
Father, we thank you because you have heard.
Thank you, Lord.
For peace and progress. In Jesus' name we have prayed.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Perry T, the name doesn't, and I'm very sorry, apologies for that. Please, if you are able to talk, is the past president of the Nigerian Student Society, University of Salford. That's a great one. So if you're able to talk, the name doesn't, I don't know. Apologies for the whoever. It's not meant, it's not being mischievous, and it's not meant in a negative way. So, sorry about that. But if you still want to say one or two things, the platform is there before we close.
Sorry, while we're waiting, can I just quickly say something?
Okay,
Please,
please
can
go
we
ahead.
all turn our videos on to take it?
Okay, that's great.
And anyone that has a good camera like iPhone 18 can just take us. But let's just quickly snap for a good picture.
Oh, how do
We are waiting. Please, let's do our makeup now. For those of us that want to do our makeup, let's have our makeups up. For those of us that want to get a costume manager, please let's do that. Please, where are the paparazzi, the professional Nigerian cameramen? Where are we?
Okay, please let us
Yes, so while we are
switch on
waiting,
our video with screenshots.
Because this is a historic moment. Okay. Thank you so much. So over to you.
And some are still not on.
Some are still trying to get their makeups done.
Okay. Please do the makeup. Let the men do the makeup. Laura is doing his makeup.
Yes, we can see.
With the cap of Pentagon.
All right, over to you.
Okay,
Secretary.
thank you. screenshots once again. So thank you. Once we see the faces, we will know this is a family face. So thank you. We'll send the picture onto the
Tomorrow, in
WhatsApp.
case someone is now a governor, I'll say, yes, I know him. This is my
And
soldier.
of course.
I was standing with Irene when she was doing it.
Please send it to the group.
Yes,
Yes,
we
sir.
will.
Okay. All
I'll
right.
be able to say I was with her year 2023 when
So
she was
please,
speaking.
I would like to see my this thing, my address or speech. Edit it well, oh.
No problem, sir. Over to
No
you,
problem.
Secretary.
But this one was not bad.
No, it was great, sir.
Yes, it was great. So thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. So, and Honorable John.